Hello guys, it's LaserBeast here, and today we're talking about World of Warcraft Dragonflight, the expansion that was announced just yesterday, and we're going to talk about the top 4 things that I'm excited for in the expansion. They've said yesterday that there's going to be an alpha test starting soon, and obviously a beta will follow, and if I get into either of those, I'm going to pump some content out about this expansion, so you best be ready for that. Be subscribed if you're not already to catch all that content when it comes out. So let's get stuck into the top 4 things that I'm excited for. Obviously starting with the new race and class combo, so they've got a new race and a class coming, but it's combined. So this is the Drakthyr, which can play as either Horde or Alliance. They can be one class, which is the Evoker. It's only the Drakthyr can play this class. And this is quite a bold move for Blizzard, something really different they've never done before, so we'll see how this goes down. So the Evoker can be either a healer or a ranged DPS that wears mail, so obviously no more competition added to the other armor types, which is pretty good. So one thing that gets me really intrigued about this class and spec combo is the idea of charging up spells. So the idea that you hold down an ability, and the longer you hold it down for, the more powerful the spell or ability that you cast will be. Now, it makes me wonder if we'll see this in the future with other specs and classes, because the idea of charging up abilities doesn't have to just be tied to this one spec. You can think of some other examples where this could be relevant. So for example, think about like an arms warrior charging up a swing, or a hunter with the aim shot. That's kind of already done, but there could be different levels of it. You charge an aim shot, you know, once, and you hold it back, you pull it back a bit further, and then you release it for like a triple whammy or whatever. There's many opportunities that you could use this other system for, so if this goes down really well and they get a good feedback on this, I'm sure they will probably implement this into other specs in the future with new abilities. We shall see. There seems to be loads of customization options for this new Drakthyr race, and that's never a bad thing, so really excited to try those out. The next big thing is the addition of dragon riding. Now, who doesn't want to ride on a dragon and, you know, go flying around freely and have gravity be an actual thing? The old system, well, the current system of flying in Shadowlands and the Classic is obviously quite clunky. It serves the purpose, it does the job fine, but realistically, when you get to the point you unlock flying, it's really nice, it's convenient, but that's about it. You know, it gets boring quite quickly. You just simply go up in the air to a point where you're not going to hit any trees or mountains, and then just fly in a straight line to where you want to go. That's usually the easiest thing to do, and it's fun, it's convenient, but it's not that fun. So it sounds like in this Dragonflight expansion we'll be able to fly quite early on. They're not going to make us wait for a full patch, or a patch and a half to give us flying, which is really good, but it will be limited in some ways. We're not sure exactly how yet. But you may only be able to fly in, say, the first 2 zones that you go to initially, or something, or you may not be able to fly very high or very fast. It's going to be limited in some way, which we'll find out more soon. They still want us to experience the zones initially on foot first, which is fine by me. You know, it is annoying after a while, but the first sort of few weeks in the zones are really interesting. You know, finding all little nooks and crannies and the hidden caves and all that, which you would just miss if you were just flying around everywhere. Now, dragon riding is an actual skill that you will in some way level up as you go along. It mentions something about collecting relics and things, so you'll probably be able to get to, you know, maybe a higher place, like a really high temple up somewhere, and find a relic, and then once you've got that one, then you'll be able to get to the next thing, whatever it is. So there'll be some sort of progression, which is nice. I'd imagine this would be locked to your character and probably not an account-bound system, which does make sense because obviously your character is the one that's learning the skill. And if you bring in your alt in, it's not like your character can say, hey alt, there's a load of dragon riding knowledge. It just doesn't really work that way. But maybe there'll be some catch-up system in there, because if it does take a long time to level your dragon riding up, you're kind of going to need a catch-up system to do this on your ults, otherwise it's just going to be annoying. So flying in the old world, they have actually stated that initially, when you learn dragon riding, you won't be able to go and do dragon riding in all the other zones, the older continents. However, they've said that they are going to think about implementing this in the future, so I'd imagine once you've got Dragon Riding unlocked and you're flying around doing all sorts of crazy maneuvers, going back on one of your old flying mounts back on Azeroth or somewhere else in the older zones is going to feel a bit rubbish. So hopefully they do implement this and give you the option to do this in any zone. Now, a user on Reddit, user Lord HT7, has done a little comparison video because this is a very similar looking system to Guild Wars 2 flying. Now, I don't personally mind if they're going to borrow systems or just straight out copy systems from other games. Blizzard are very good at taking things and really polishing them and nailing how the systems feel and look, so I think they're going to do a good job of it. And I think it's not a bad thing if they do copy systems from other games, full stop. I'll link the post in the description if you want to go and check out the comments, but people seem to agree with that. It's going to be a nice addition to the game regardless. Another big one is the new talents. So they're going to revamp the talents again. How many times have the talents been revamped in the past? But they're going to take them back again to a system that's similar to the older talents how they were back in Classic. They're going to change them to be like trees again, rather than having just a few rows with 3 options on each, which is really good. And you're going to have a class-specific tree and a spec-specific tree that you're going to be able to dip into different talents in there. We're going to be able to create loadouts like talent presets that you can change. I think it's when you're in a rested area only, so you're not going to be able to change talents like in the middle of a raid or in the middle of a Mythic Plus dungeon. Which is fine, but you'll be able to create a certain amount of loadouts. On the preview of the show, they had about 6 or 7, so you could have, you know, a single target focused Mythic Plus build, and you could have your raiding build, and you could have your PvP build, and you can just set them and lock them in, and then just switch to them nice and quickly. So you're not going to have to fill out the talent trees every single time, and you're also not going to have to pay a lot of gold to keep on swapping talents. So this is really nice, quite a flexible, free system. We spotted some interesting things on there. So if you look at the Druid one, I noticed that they had the icon for Convoke the Spirits on there. So this just suggests that we may be able to take some of the Covenant abilities into Dragonflight with us. Obviously this is a super early preview, so they may have just put the icons in there as a placeholder, so don't hold me to this. But, you know, we saw this in Legion with some of the artifact abilities. They got baked into classes like, I think, Wake of Ashes for Paladins. That was baked into Retribution as the expansions progressed, and you can still use it today. So it wouldn't be a big surprise if they did take some of the Covenant abilities into Dragonflight with us. So fingers crossed, because some of them are obviously fantastic. It also looked like Restore Druids were going to be able to talent into Skull Bashers and Interrupt, so Shamans may no longer be the only healer with a kick, which will be interesting. Poor Shamans. I really like the look of these trees overall, and the older trees are definitely superior to the new style of doing things, so I'm pretty excited for this. We're not just going to be selecting cookie cutter builds as we always do. Or maybe we will, we'll see. Now the next thing is the Professions Overhaul, so I'm not massively excited about this, but the things that they've been saying definitely get me intrigued. So as someone who doesn't craft, I'm not big on Professions full stop. I've no real interest in it. I find that I end up, through just doing activities in the day, especially being a Night Fae player, I end up with a lot of materials in my bags that just don't do anything. They just sit there until I've got big stacks of everything, and then every now and then, whenever I can be bothered, I just go to the auction house and sell them all and get a bit of gold. That's as far as it goes for me with crafting. But with this new work order system, this really gets me intrigued. I think this is a great idea. So I'll be able to go to, for example, an NPC or a board in the city, and then put a work order out for, say, some potions, and I can put the materials that I've got in my bag that I wouldn't be able to craft. I can put them into this work order, and someone else can take them and use them and make the potions and give them to me. It just seems like such a great idea. It's sort of like a middle ground between you crafting an item yourself, or you asking someone in your guild or someone in trade chat, for example, to craft an item for you. It's like a middle ground between that, and it adds a bit of convenience to that whole system. So for me as a druid, for example, I'll be able to go around and just take 2 gathering professions, which is obviously what druids are good at, just gathering things with flight form and that. So I'll be able to just fly around, gather loads of stuff, and then just get someone else to make my gear for me. And I'll be happy with that. That sounds good to me. And from the other things mentioned about crafting, like the crafting gear sets and stuff, it just sounds like crafters are going to be really happy going into the new expansion. So those are the 4 biggest things that I think are going to be great going into Dragonflight, but there's some other honourable mentions which I'll mention just now. So the story being simpler, there's no big cosmic threat, we're not trying to save the world, we're just going off and we're just exploring, and there's no big huge evil bad guy right from the get-go, so we're just going to see how the story unfolds. I like that. And bringing old dungeons back into the Mythic Plus rotation, so we're obviously going to test this out in 9.2.5 in Season 4 of Shadowlands, when we're going to be doing some of the Warlords of Draenor dungeons. Now, I guess Blizzard are going to take this information and get all the feedback on it, and then tweak how they do things in Dragonflight, because I'm going to go more into this into a second video coming up in the next few days, where I talk about some potential issues of the things that they've mentioned in Dragonflight. But yeah, this is something interesting, and it's not a bad thing to use the old content they've just got sat there. Some of them dungeons are really good, and it's a shame to never be able to do them as current content. For any PvP players out there, the PvP gearing in Dragonflight is going to be similar to a Warlords of Draenor style system, so I'll put a link to in the description about that if you want to look more into that, because I'm not a big PvP guy. They've said that they seem happy with the Great Vault and how that system works, which is fine by me. I do think it's quite a good system. There's flexibility there. It's not just you're not just getting one item if you put some work in the week, which just was really bad. In like Battle for Azeroth, for example, getting one item and it just always being a bad one, or getting braces for 6 weeks in a row. The Great Vault solves that problem, and it seems like they're going to carry that forward. And then they've mentioned that there will be a renown system, so don't be sad just yet. They've said that you don't need to lock yourself into one sort of faction and get renown with that one, and then when you change, you've got to do it all from the start. You'll be able to level up all these different factions, they've called them. Not saying anything about covenants or guild orders or anything like that. They've called them factions, so they're probably going to be rep, as there always is, but there's this renown thing as well. So there'll be probably some power tied to this, or you'll unlock something. Maybe it'll be tied into the dragon riding system as well. But nevertheless, you'll be able to level all of them up in a similar fashion at the same time. So none of this awkward, you know, I've invested a lot of time into this one, now I need to go and put like the same amount of hours into this one and do it like 4 times. There's none of that this time round. It does really seem like they're genuinely listening to feedback that we're giving them. You know, how much feedback have they got over the years and just ignored? It seems like now they are listening and they're making tweaks to the game. They actually specifically mentioned alt friendliness as well, so we'll see how it goes and we'll give them feedback. Again, if I get into the alpha or the beta, I'll show you guys some stuff, and there'll be many other sources doing it, obviously, that we can have a look at and provide feedback on. So, fingers crossed, guys. Overall, really happy with what we've seen so far. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching, guys. I've been Lazy Beast, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.